Hey, it's Tanya, and this isn't going to be as peppy of a video as I normally do. I'm really upset, if we're being really honest, and I doubt that I will make it through this video without a tear, so bear with me, but also I think anyone can understand. I was pregnant, almost 24 weeks pregnant with twin boys, and I sadly lost them due to preterm labor, and so this isn't going to be a happy video. I'm also going to give a big trigger warning here. If this is going to be something that's going to affect you negatively, please don't watch it. I know that this is something that a lot of people can't handle, but I also want to acknowledge that this happens a lot more than people think that it does. And so it breaks my heart that a lot of us feel alone in this, but we're not alone. It happens so often, which breaks my heart. I wish that nobody had to go through what I've been through and my husband has been through in the last few months. So I just wanted to share the stories of my precious boys. It's therapeutic to me, but it's also a story that I think some people can relate with, but you don't hear about these stories. So I don't want you to feel alone, but I also just wanted to share my story. I hadn't really been sharing it on YouTube. I took a break from YouTube because this is supposed to be something fun for me. I enjoy making videos. It's fun. I love editing a video and like chopping it up. So it just is fun for me, and I didn't want it to be something that was going to stress me out when I was pregnant. I didn't want any stress with this pregnancy. So again, I took a break, but I was almost 24 weeks when I started bleeding to the ER. And they did a bunch of scans to try to see what's going on. Why is she bleeding? And so, we're waiting there forever. They try to put these little things on my tummy to find the heartbeats of the babies, but the babies were so little, they didn't tell us that maybe they wouldn't come up on that. And so we about had a heart attack because they tried for about an hour to get the baby's heartbeats. And in reality, they got a Doppler and put it on them, and their heartbeats, you heard them immediately. So that was something scary that happened in the beginning, but also bleeding is scary. So they bring in the ultrasound lady. The ultrasound lady is doing her thing. She's like, oh, they're so cute. They're doing good. Both of them, their heart rates are good. They're looking perfect. We were like, okay, so that's good. And a doctor comes in. They're like, you know what? It's looking good. I'm going to check your cervix, TMI, sorry. But I'm going to check your cervix, see what's going on. So they checked me. They said, well, the outside of your cervix is open, but the inside is closed. And that's the part that matters. And they didn't really go in and explain that much more. So I don't exactly understand what was going on in that regard. I wish I would have asked more questions in that moment. But they're like, well, since we checked you, you're going to be cramping a lot because, we're where we shouldn't be, basically. And so they send us home. They say, all right, go home, go enjoy. You're going to be cramping, so deal with it. So I get home. I'm cramping really bad that night. But then the next morning, I'm cramping like so bad. And it was progressively getting worse, but it was taking breaks. So I was like, okay, this is kind of nice. I'm not in severe pain every second. So I get my heating pad, and I try not to take any painkillers because I can quite literally only take Tylenol because of some of my other medical conditions, and I don't want to become immune to it. Basically, I've become immune to a couple medicines, like lung medicines, and so I was like, I don't want to take it unless it's necessary. And I got to the point where I was like, I need some Tylenol. So I kept calling the doctor on call about 4 different times, saying, something's not right. Something's not right. Something's not right. I don't understand why I'm hurting so bad. I'm gaslighting myself. They're gaslighting me into thinking, nothing's wrong. It's all fine. It's all fine. Everything's fine. So eventually I start bleeding again. And I was like, you know what, Jesse? I'm in so much pain. Something is wrong. We're going to the hospital. I don't care. So I called them on the way. I said, I am on my way to you. Be ready for me. And so they were ready for me. They even had the ultrasound lady ready when we got there. The doctor comes in. He's so cocky. He's like, you know what? I'm sure this is just an overreaction. It's going to be fine. And so he leaves me with the ultrasound lady for a while. And she's like, oh, look how cute the babies are, because they're so precious. They're itty bitty babies. And she's talking about them. And then she sees this one spot on the scan, and she cocks her head and is kind of like, doctor comes back in, and the doctor's like, okay. And he looks at it and he's like, And we were both like, huh? What are you talking about? Don't, huh? He like runs out of the room. So we're like, okay, that's not great. Why is our doctor running out of the room? So he comes back and he's like, I called Riley. They say I need to check your cervix. And so I was like, okay. At this point, it's preterm labor. I was in labor and I was in a lot of pain. And so he checks. He's like, oh my gosh, she's at 5 centimeters. I'm at 5 freaking centimeters. What if I didn't go to the hospital? Oh my gosh. Just a little fact. By the time I got to the hospital, to the time I had both babies was under an hour. I would have given birth at home if I didn't go to the hospital. So thank God he gave me a little bit of a heads up and like gave me a mother's intuition and we went to the hospital, or else I would have given birth at home. Can you imagine? I can't imagine. And there were these little tiny preemies. Anyway, so back to the doctor freaking out. He runs back out and he runs back in. He's like, okay, Riley Hospital is sending a helicopter. They're going to come and take you there and you're going to go give birth there. And we were like, okay. Comes back in after, running out again. Okay, there's no time for Riley to come get you. You're giving birth here. So they start wheeling me out to a birthing room, and it about breaks my heart because they're too little. And I kept telling the nurse that was by my side, they're too little. They're not ready. They're not ready to come out. They haven't had enough time to cook in the oven, And she was like, I know, honey, I'm so sorry, but they're coming. So they wheel us into a room, and the room is huge, and they've got these 2 setups. There's basically 2 NICU setups ready for when the boys would come out. And so this guy comes up, he's like, hey, would you like an epidural? And I was like, yeah, I would like an epidural. And he's like, okay, great, give me a second. He doesn't come back, by the way. And all of a sudden, the doctor's like, don't push. I was like, don't push. It's a natural chemical hormone that you push when you push kind of thing. And so he says don't push, and I literally pop out a baby. I pop out a baby. Baby doesn't cry. So I can't hear him cry. And I'm like, Jesse, is he okay? And Jesse's like, yes, he's beautiful. And I still can't hear him. I was like, I can't hear him. And he's like, oh honey, his lungs are too little. He can't cry right now. So they take him over to that first little NICU area, and they call that baby A. So I'm going to call him baby A until later in the story we give them names. And so I will call them by their names whenever we name them, because to me that's, I don't know, it just works with the story. He's doing okay. They're, working to stabilize him. Meanwhile, I know that he's doing okay. And I'm like, wait, where's my epidural? And they're like, oh honey, it's way too late for that. I was like, okay. So I never planned on a natural birth, but I did a natural birth, so go me. I won't be doing that again. I will have an epidural next time, hopefully. Anyway, so I pop out baby B, is what they call him, and he doesn't cry. He's itty bitty, and I keep saying, Jesse, are they okay? Are they okay? I can't hear them. He's like, yes, they're okay. They're beautiful. They're our precious boys. And so they take him over and take him to his little NICU area. And this is when the room just filled up with even more people. There was no standing space. For example, they literally, if this is the room, they shoved me into this little corner over here. And we're so shoved in the corner that Jesse and a nurse are pinned in. And they're working all around us to try to save our boys. And so it was awful. They're trying to keep our kids alive right in front of us. And they can't get us out of the room. So they're resuscitating our boys right in front of us. They're trying to put tubes in their chests because their lungs don't work. I would never wish that on anyone, to have to see their children be revived over and over again. It just breaks my heart that they had to go through so much. I wish as a mom I could have held them in my safe space for them and made them feel comfortable and safe and loved, but I couldn't do that. And it breaks my heart that I just wasn't what I could be. And, the doctors and nurses kept saying, like, there's nothing you could have done. But I, as a mom, feel like I could have done so much more. And so I just have that feeling of guilt of I could have done a lot more, and I can't, so I'm sure people have felt that way as well. Thank you, baby. And so eventually flight crews come in because there's 2 helicopters that have come for the boys, because the machines that they put them in weigh so much that they can't take them in one helicopter. So they each are going to have their own helicopter, and they want to take them to a hospital that can handle such premature babies better than the resources that they had, because they were only 1.5 pounds each. And they had no business being in the world yet, and they didn't have time to give me the medicine to help their lungs develop, steroids, and it was just all so fast. So they get baby A stable enough that he can go in the helicopter. So they put him in this big machine to help him stay stable, and they're like, all right, we're going to take him to Riley Hospital. Okay, Riley's full. We're going to take him to this other hospital. Okay, that place is full. So, like, literally, they kept saying, we're going to take him to this place. We're going to take him to this place. They were walking out with our child, and we're like, where are you going? And so they told us Franciscan Hospital was going to receive them, and they said we would get a call once he arrived, and they would let us know how he's doing. So I was like, go with them, Jesse. Like, sorry, the weight of the airplane, he can't go with us. You're gonna have to drive separate. Neither of us got to be with our son. The room kind of clears out when the flight team comes in, because they kind of let them take over and just do everything because they trust them. They know that they've done good. But one of the nurses, thank God for her, during the whole time she had taken our phones and was taking pictures throughout the time, so we'll always have the memory of the pictures. I'm so thankful she did that. With trauma, you don't remember things exactly, and so it helped me see what was going on in the time. And there were so many pediatricians in the room, and there were so many doctors, there were so many nurses. They would bring in these x-ray machines, so it was just like chaos. So that baby gets there, they call us, they say he's here, he's doing all right. And during that whole meantime, they're trying to save our other baby who's not doing as good. They can't get him stable. They keep having to resuscitate him. They keep having to replace tubes in his chest. And meanwhile, we're sitting there like, what do you do? And the nurses said, I'm so sorry. You should have never been in the room for all of this. Like, we wish that we could have gotten you out, but they couldn't. It's not the way it worked, So we were there. And at that point, the nurse was like, why don't we get mom up to go, to the bathroom? And so she teaches me stuff. And then eventually they get that baby stable enough that they're like, okay, that baby can now get in the helicopter. We're going to take him to the same location as his brother. And so they start going out, and I look at my doctor, and he's like, so I'm assuming you probably want to go with them? I was like, yeah. He was like, okay, if you promise that when you go to the next hospital, you will readmit there, then I'll let you go and be with the boys. And I said, great, done, let's do it. And so they had told us that I obviously couldn't drive, and Jesse wasn't allowed to drive. So all of our family, we figured out, I figured out, Jesse knew the whole time, but all of our family was there because he had messaged them and said like, hey, the preterm labor, and they all got to see the helicopters, and they got some of these great pictures that I really appreciated that they were able to get. And my parents drove us to the hospital, and then Jesse's mom followed, and then Jesse's dad and his stepmom, he was sick, so he was like, I can't get those germs on these babies. So he, respectfully said, like, I'm gonna, tap out. And I really appreciated that he was willing to do that when I know it's his great grandbabies, and I know he wanted to be there. Thank you, Steve. We get a call while we're driving to the hospital that baby B is not doing very good, and they even had to resuscitate him on the elevator, and that it wasn't looking good. So I was like, okay, Dad, hit the gas, let's go. It's a far drive. We get there, and we get to go up. We go to the NICU area, and they're like, all right, we're going to take you to this room. and it wasn't where the boys were, so I knew it was bad news. So they told us, we're so sorry, but baby B didn't make it, and he's passed away. But baby A is doing okay. We would like to meet them. We'd like mom and dad to be able to see them. And we said, yeah, we'll have our time to kind of see the boys, and then we'll have grandparents come in later. So we had said that we wanted to go see baby B first, but they actually took us to baby A. And baby A is the one that was doing okay. And he was able to grab our fingers with his little tiny hands. And it's just really sad because you see him on all these tubes and machines because he's just like, he's doing okay, but he's not doing good. And they basically told us if he does survive, he's going to live with some major struggles the rest of his life. And so I had this feeling of like, I really want him to live because I want him to be with me. But I also don't want him to suffer. And so I still live with the guilt of, I feel like I wished his death, when in reality I didn't. I just didn't want him to suffer. We got to see him for a little bit, and we go in to go see baby B. He had passed away, and they still had a tube down his throat because they didn't know if we would want to have an autopsy or not. It turns out later that they didn't have to leave it in, even if we did want an autopsy. Just to see your kid like that is really hard. And so Jesse and we went in and we got to hold him. I never got to touch him or hold him while he was alive, only after he had passed away. So that's also something I really have a hard time with. Jesse and I were chatting. We were, in the room with him. They have their own little rooms, and we were in the room with him, and we were like, well, I guess we gotta give him a name. He deserves a name. And so we had some names on a list, but they were, so little we hadn't picked out names yet. And so we decided that we were gonna name baby B Gabriel Lee Vondersar. We just feel like Gabriel was an angel in the Bible, angel for the Lord, and, he's our angel, and he was such a warrior, he really tried, and I think it was really fitting for him. Then we decided that it was okay for the grandparents to come in and meet Gabriel, and so they all came in, and everybody got to take a turn holding him, and we told him his name, and it was just a really hard time of grieving when we have another kid that we're so thankful is alive, but also it's like this huge loss of your dreams and the family that you dreamed of. And then you're like, you know what? My son's gonna have to live without his twin brother if he survives. And eventually, we're there a long time, and eventually we decide, all right, I think we are ready to take a break. And they're like, okay, Mom, we really need to admit you now. And I was like, okay. So I admit there, and they gave us this room. Honestly, so thankful for the space that they provided for us. Gave us a room, and attached to it was a little waiting room so our family could come, and if we wanted to sleep, they could be in that room. And attached to it was the bereavement coordinator office. We go to sleep. I wake up pretty early the next morning, and I just felt a drop in my stomach, and I felt like something was wrong. I couldn't figure it out, and so I started sobbing. And so Jesse got in the bed with me. A couple minutes later, the doctor comes in, the boys' doctor, and they're like, we're so sorry, the same thing that was happening to his brother is happening to him now, and their lungs just weren't ready to be in this world, and they should have been in their mommy. And they're like, he's only got a little time left, I think you need to come see him. And so we went up and we saw him, and they're like, are you ready? And so take him off his little tubes, and I got to hold him. Right here. And he was so little. He was so warm. And so I got my turn. And I was like, you know what? He just really needs his dad right now. And so Jesse took him And Jesse held him until he passed away. It was only like a minute or two that he lived. He passed. But I'm so thankful he was able to pass with us, you know. He wasn't alone like his brother. I was just so blessed to have them as my babies, you know. But I'm just so brokenhearted they're gone, but also I know where they are, you know, they're in heaven. They're not suffering there. It just breaks my heart, but we decided, all right, well, you know, we need to give him a name, so we named him Gideon Leo von der Sar, so his middle name was similar to his brother's, and, you know, his first name's kind of similar as well. So we had our little Gideon Leo von der Sar and our Gabriel Lee von der Sar. They were like, you know what, we can get them cleaned up, and we'll bring them down to your room, and they were beat up. They were pretty beat up. That breaks my heart that, you know, they went through that much while they were on this earth. So they bring them down to our room, and we invite the grandparents to come see them, and then one set of my mama and papa, you know, everybody's just brokenhearted, and we started getting pretty stressed out, so we started wanting to leave, but they encouraged us to stay at the hospital. They're like, you really need time to recover. You have been through a lot right now, so you really need to just recover and have some time. So we decided to stay, which was one of the best decisions, because then we also got to meet with the bereavement gal, and she was wonderful. She connected us with a lot of resources, because, I mean, we had to have a funeral, not cheap, and so they connected us with some charities, which I'm thankful for the charities that helped us, because we already went through this loss, and then not knowing that we needed to save up for a funeral instead of like our kids' lives. There were a couple charities that helped us out. The first one is Love Lucas. I'll kind of share their information here and then down in the links below. But they covered a lot of our funeral fees, and so I really, really appreciate Love Lucas, and I was really thankful for all they're willing to do to help. Also received some assistance from Jessica's Gift at Pinna Monuments in Indianapolis. We have thing where they'll cover some of the headstone for the babies, and then if you choose you can get a nicer one, but they'll provide like a certain type. I thought that was like really kind of them as well. They helped us with some of it, but we decided to get a little bit of a nicer one. It won't come in for a while. It takes a while. Sad, you know, like I thought that I'd be providing for them forever, but I'm providing them a headstone. It's kind of messed up. We have had a miscarriage before, and I feel like giving birth and, you know, them having a birth and a death certificate was a lot more closure than that. I really have a lot of empathy for those who have had miscarriages, because, you know, you don't get that same closure that you get when you bury your kid. You should never bury your kid, you know. That should be never, ever something that you have to do, but I was so thankful. A bunch of family showed up for the funeral, and it was a beautiful day, and the service was beautiful. I thank you for Pastor John McDougall and Tyson Harold and Pastor Weston Johnson for helping us with that. It truly was beautiful, and I really appreciate everybody that was involved in it. I would say something that kind of caught me off guard was, you know, you have to go to the funeral home and pick out, you know, the goods and services that you want to happen. It's hard picking for your kids, you know, and they told us that there's this one casket where both of them could fit in the same one, so they were buried together, which, again, a nice little closure. Also, our church, Westbridge Church, has, you know, been a phenomenal support. They helped us with some of the funeral fees, and then they also helped us socially. They did a meal train, and a lot of people have sent sympathy cards, and I really appreciate all the people that, you know, brought us meals or have reached out. It's a really hard time. It's a really hard time. I just wanted to chat about grief a little bit. I think this could go for anybody, any type of grief. I have been reading a lot of grief books lately. I'll share a couple here, and then I'll share a couple down below, but a lot of the books have been really helpful. I remember I looked into like the stages of grief, and even the gal that made the stages of grief has said like, hey, look, no, that was just like a general knowledge of like the different options. She's not saying it has to be in that order, it has to be that way. She said it all kind of works together and they ebb and flow. And this is me, this isn't her. But I've definitely been having a lot of the stages of grief, but I'm a stuffer. And I've been stuffing a lot of it and recently kind of decided I can't do that. It's just not going to be good for me. Grief just kind of hits you like a sneak attack. Comes out of nowhere. You're not even thinking about it. And then it's just like there. So again, I have empathy for you if you're grieving. And I just want to remind you, grieving isn't a linear thing. It doesn't have to be done within a certain amount of time. And that's something I've really struggled with. And some of the books kind of helped explain that. But it's just really important to know that it's not always going to be perfect. It's not always going to be pretty. And it's okay to have that grief forever, like your whole life, because you probably are. You might not break down and cry every single day, but it's going to be in the back of your head. So yeah, I've just got a lot of empathy for people right now. I would say my feelings right now are pretty tender. I'm really hurting. And, you had this dream of what your life was going to be. And, we have a nursery now that we're not going to use for a while. And so it just is a lot of hurt feelings and broken heart for me and Jesse and all of our family right now. I'm so thankful that God gave them to us, but hard to wonder, like, why would he take it away? We still love God. We just are struggling with the understanding right now of, like, how could you let this happen? And how could you make us grieve like this? I feel like I've had my fair share of pain in the past, so why give more? I don't know. I think it's just important to process those feelings and make sure you got a good therapist. That's all I'm saying. Thank you, Jenny, my therapist. So, my tip of the day, let grief happen. It's gonna happen. And if you stuff it, you're gonna have a meltdown like I did. And it's just good to feel those feelings. The grief shows that you truly loved them. I'm hoping they know that up in heaven, and I'm sure they do, because I'm sure they can maybe look down on me and protect me. But it's sad that they're, protecting me, and it was my goal to protect them. Anyway, this has been a doom and gloom video, but I hope that you have a wonderful day. Don't talk to strangers unless they give you candy, and I'll see you next time. Bye.